In this session, so we're going to see some of the concepts. So what is the agenda and um, what is the difference between the Spring and Spring Boot? So let's go to the agenda, what we will see in this particular course. So this course is completely designed based on the Spring Boot and microservices. So this is completely on the real world examples. So I'm going to teach you the real world scenarios. So what the companies use and how exactly the microservices will be configured. So all those stuff we are going to see in this particular course. So coming to me, so my name is Raghu and I'm having 11 plus years of experience into the IT industry using the Java technologies. So I used so many technologies like Spring, Struts, Hibernate. So in the front end, so all this stuff we have used, and so I'm working as a junior architect as of now. So in this session, particularly in this course, the complete course, what exactly we're going to see, we will see now, and then we will go to the today's topic. Okay, so once we come to the agenda, so this is the agenda of the complete course. This is not the today's agenda. So this is the complete course agenda. So along with this one, so I'm going to show you. So what are the inner topics, the breakthrough to the all these topics, whatever we're going to see in agenda. So what exactly we are going to explain in this complete course, I'll show you that one as well. So coming to this Spring Boot and microservices. So I am hoping that you all are aware of the Spring framework. So this is the prerequisite for the Spring Boot as well as the microservice course. So if you haven't any experience in the Spring, so please go through the Spring once and then we can start from here. So coming to this course agenda, so first we will see what is Spring, and obviously, so we need to check what is Spring and why that Spring, and then we'll come to the Spring Boot. So why do we need the Spring Boot over the Spring? We already have the Spring Web, Spring ORM, Spring JDBC. So we have so many modules in the Spring. So we can achieve all the things by using the Spring. But still, why do we need the Spring Boot? And we'll go through the Spring Boot in depth, how internally it will work. So if we have one annotation, so how the annotation will work and what are internals of that particular annotation. So anything, so we'll go to the inner details of that particular topic so that you will understand better and you will perform better in the interviews. So this is completely the two-way, like the interview centric as well as the real-time experience. So we consider both and we have designed this course. So the next part, Spring Data JPA. So what is Spring Data JPA? And some of the examples we will see in that Spring Data JPA. So this is how we can connect to the database by using Spring Data JPA, and what are the methods involved in it, and how can you save the data, how can you retrieve the data from the database, and how you can use that in the Spring Boot. So those inner details we are going to check. So as part of this, we will cover some of the Hibernate concepts as well. Coming to the third, the Spring Web MVC. So the Spring Boot is dependent on the Spring. So the Spring Web, once you know the Spring Web, then you will easily understand the Spring Boot. So first we will go through some of the concepts of the Spring Web, and then we will see how we can integrate this well with the Spring Boot and how can you use without any hassles in the Spring Boot. That is the third concept. And the fourth one, the Spring REST. See, the microservice architecture is completely based on the RESTful web services these days, right? So your application has to connect to the another application. So how it will communicate with each other. So there are so many things are there, like SOAP and REST. So the REST is famous in these days because it is lightweight than the SOAP. So we will check how you can create the RESTful web services by using Spring and Spring Boot. The fifth one is microservices. Once you get all the concepts, for all the four first concepts, then you can go to the microservices. By using the Spring Boot and Spring Cloud, how do we create the microservices? And how do you connect those microservices with each other? And if there are any problems in the communications, how you are going to solve them. So we will consider the concepts like the Eureka client, the discovery service, and API gateway, the Hystrix, the circuit breaker, and Feign client, and Ribbon, the client-side load balancer, and the cloud config server to externalize your configurations. So we'll use the cloud config server. So we'll look at all these concepts in the microservices. That is by using the Spring Boot as well as the Spring Cloud. And then tools. In the real time, what do we use? What are the tools we are going to use? So those tools I will explain based on the scenarios as well as based on the requirements. For example, the build tools, Maven. We're going to see Maven, a lot of Maven in our examples. We'll see some of the Gradle examples as well. And we'll check the Jenkins, so the automated build tool. Will configure the job over there, and you can run the jobs over there and it will build your application. So like this, we have 5 or 6 tools. I'll show you what we are going to check on those things. So this is the complete agenda of the course, but I'll show you the inner concepts, what exactly we will see in a moment. Okay, so come to the framework. So first of all, so now we are talking about the Spring Boot and microservices, but this is based on the Spring framework. That's what we are explaining in so many days. And everyone is saying that, okay, the Spring is a framework. So why do we need this framework basically? So you have the struts, you have the solidets, and you have the JSPs. You can use those things and you can achieve the complete thing by using those solidets and JSPs and Java, obviously. But why do you need this framework? So let's take one simple example to understand why the framework is required. So the example is, I want you to cut the paper, a big paper, into the small piece, one piece of 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters. Then what do? So you'll take a scale and you will measure that 5 centimeters length, 5 centimeters height, and you'll mark it and you'll cut it. See, that is very easy. You can do that. But what if I want you to cut 1,000 pieces? So every time you will measure it, you will take the scale, you will measure 5 centimeters length, 5 centimeters height, then you will cut it. See how much time it will take to cut these many pieces, 1,000 pieces. To make that life easier, so you already might have some idea now. You might get some idea into your mind that, okay, so I can have some piece, the iron piece, which is having the 5 centimeter by 5 centimeter, so that you can just use that. You can put it in below that paper and you can simply cut the 5 centimeter by 5 centimeter pieces. That is very easy, right? So now that particular piece of iron, the 5 centimeter by 5 centimeter piece of iron, is providing you the feasibility to cut your paper into multiple pieces in an easy manner. The framework is also the same. Framework is also the same. So you have the predefined some set of rules. So you can use those predefined rules and you can do your work. You can write the business logic in a very generic way and very easily. That's why we need the framework. And coming to the next point, the Java supports the reusability as well as loose coupling by default. But to support this, to maintain this reusability as well as the loose coupling in your application, for example, you are building one e-commerce website and you are writing the classes, you are writing the interfaces. So how do you maintain the reusability? How do you make it loose coupling? You have to think by yourself. You have to think by yourself. Even though Java is giving this feasibility, so it's developer responsibility to write the code in such a way that it is loose coupled. The inexperienced developers, they will start with something and they will end up with tight coupling. So in one class, if you change something, all the other places will break. So that's not the idea to write the programming. So we need to write the reusable code as well as the loose coupled code. But once you come to the Spring, the framework, basically, whatever the framework is, not only the Spring framework, even the struts, even the Scala, even Play framework, even any framework, if you take based on Java, Scala, whatever the programming language is. So it is our responsibility to write loose coupled code. But once you come to the framework defines some rules. Okay, in this way you can write the loose coupling code. If you follow these rules, it will be easy for you to write the reusable code as well as the loosely coupled code. So that's why we need the framework. And the next point, see, we know the design patterns as well. So you know the design pattern, you know the Java, you know the servlets and JSPs, but it's your responsibility to implement the design patterns in your application. It is up to you whether you will use the design patterns properly or not. But once we come to the framework, so they have already used some of the design patterns so that you no need to worry on that particular thing. Still more design patterns if you want to use, you are free to use the design patterns, but in most of the cases they have already used the design patterns. So just you need to know what design patterns they have used. So those things also we're going to explain in the course. So what are the design patterns they have used in the framework? And next point is what this framework will do basically. See, I'm having the logging mechanism. I'm having the authentication mechanism. I want the validation mechanism. So if you are not using any framework, simply you need to take care of all these things. In the framework, so they will provide you how to configure them and how to use them very easily. So they will give you a way to use the validations. They will provide the flow. So if you take the MVC architecture, right? So the web application will follow the MVC architecture. So model, view, and controller. So you no need to worry on the design pattern or the way we are writing the MVC application. So the framework already provided, okay, so this is the view part and this is the controller part and this is the model part. If you just follow this, automatically your application will follow the MVC architecture. So that means what? The framework is providing the solution for the common problems. So this is why we need the framework. So next, what is a framework now? So you have seen all these things, right? Why do we need the framework? But what is the definition of the framework? The framework is We can in a simple terms, it's a semi-completed application. It's a semi-completed application with all common functionalities. So it already provides the common functionalities for you. You have that particular semi-completed application. On top of it, you will write your own business logic. You'll build your own business logic instead of worrying about all the common problems. They will provide you how you will do those, how you will solve those common problems in a simple manner. So you no need to worry about those common problems much. So now, what is a framework? The framework is a semi-completed application with all common functionalities. So this is the other definition of the framework. So it's a platform for developing software applications. It provides a foundation on which software developers can build programs for a specific platform. So it's again the same. There is no difference here. It is just a platform. So where the developers can start their applications. It's already provided some of the common problems. I mean, the solutions to the common problems. And from there, you will start your application and you are only concentrate on the business logic, not on the complete configuration, all this stuff you no need to take care. Just you need to follow the rules of that particular framework so that it will automatically take care of those those solutions to the common problems. This is what is a framework. So any questions till now? I'm assuming as you're on mute and you're not speaking. I'm going ahead with the next slide. See, then we come to the Spring framework. See, basically the framework is two types. One is application framework and another one is the web framework. See, if you look at the slide, it is a open source application framework. Spring is an application framework, not a web framework. So it includes the web framework, but we call it as a application framework. So what is the difference between this application framework and the web framework? The web framework is a framework by which you can create the only web applications. Only web applications. But you come to the application framework, it includes the web development. Plus, along with the web development, you can create any standalone applications as well. You can integrate this particular framework with any other frameworks as well. So this is called application framework. You can create production grade standalone applications as well as the web applications by using the Spring framework. This is the difference between the web framework as well as the application framework. Now, we know that the Spring is a application framework. See, and the advantage, there are a lot of advantages are there by using the Spring framework. We're going to see those things in a moment, but the main advantage of the Spring framework is it's a layered architecture. So it's a layered architecture. See, if you are having all the layers, right, in a different modules, so you can, if you want to attach that particular layer to your application, you can simply attach it. If you don't want that particular thing, you can simply remove it. And with the layered architecture, you can debug the code very easily and you can find out where the problems are. And you can solve those problems very easily. So this is the main advantage of the Spring framework. See, there are a lot of features of the Spring framework. So the first one is it's very lightweight. Okay, so you no need to get the multiple jar files, multiple jar files into your application to create the simple application. So with the small amount of small memory, for example, if you want to create a standalone, a simple Spring application, so you no need to have more than 3 MB of jars. It's very, very lightweight and very less memory jars you can use, and you can create you can start building your application. You can start building your application. The next one is inversion of control. So this is basically the main idea of the Spring framework, and this is the best feature why the Spring framework became very famous. See, if you go to the Struts framework and other frameworks, whenever we are writing our code, we need to create the objects for that. So wherever we required the, for example, we have a layered architecture. So let me give you some example. See here, I'm having some application. So we are having some layers. For example, here we are having the controller layer. Here I'm having the sorry, I'm very bad in drawing. So here I'm having the repository layer. So I will talk to this, and I'll give the response back to this one. So whenever, see, if I want this particular object in the controller layer or a action layer, then what do we require? We require a object. For example, here I am having some department. This text is okay. Here I'm having the department controller, and here I'm having the department service. So whenever you require this department service in the controller, basically, if the inversion of control is not there, so what do? You have to create the object by yourself by using new operator. But when you come to the Spring is providing you the inversion of control. So it will create the objects for you. But your responsibility is what? You need to define, okay, in this particular class, I need these objects. In this place, I need these objects. You need to configure them. Okay, I need the objects of these classes, so that the Spring will take care of all those creation of the objects. The responsibility of the creation of the objects is now whose responsibility? The Spring framework responsibility. So I'm just repeating one more time. See, in the normal applications, we will create the objects by ourselves. But once you come to the Spring taken the responsibility of the developer of creating the objects in the classes. So it is inverse. That is the inverse. Basically, we have to create, but the Spring is creating by itself. But what is our responsibility? We are just defining how to create those objects, what objects you want to create in which class. That configuration, if you do properly, so automatically the Spring will create the object for you, and it will make it ready for you. Just you need to get it and you need to use it. So the control of the creation of the objects has been already taken by this particular Spring in the Spring framework. So that is called inversion of control. Inversion of control. So we will achieve this inversion of control by using the dependency injection. See that configuration, how the dependencies has to be injected, where that dependencies has to be injected. So we'll do the dependency injection. We'll configure them to make this inversion of control works. See how beautiful it is. This is a beautiful feature of the Spring. So this is only the reason the Spring became very famous. So previously, 10 years back or 11 years back, all people were using Struts. They simply moved to the Spring because of this reason. And see, if the system is creating the objects, it won't create the unnecessary objects. But if the developer is creating the object, he has to take care where exactly he is creating, and he has to dereference it once it is done. So if you are creating the same object multiple times in the same method for 100 times or for 1000 times, that will be the memory inefficient application. But once you come to the Spring, you are giving the responsibility of the creation of the objects to the Spring. So it won't create multiple objects in multiple places. So based on your requirement, you can define that. So this is the main feature of the Spring framework. And the next one is aspect oriented. Aspect oriented. See, if we are having the web application or any application, see, we can take some of the features out and we can write that as a common functionality. Common functionality. So writing that common functionality into a separate space, a separate application, or we can just inject that application or feature wherever it is required. Wherever it is required. So that is nothing but the aspect oriented. For example, I want to log. The logging is basic example. That authentication is basic example. See, once the request is coming, I have to check whether that user is authenticated or not, whether he is having the access to that particular resource or not. That has to be done for each and every method. Right? If you take the logging mechanism, so that logging has to be done in each and every method. So I will take that out logging functionality out and I will write it in a separate place and I will execute that based on my requirement. See, this is nothing but the cross-cutting concerns. These are nothing but the cross-cutting concerns. So you can take that particular piece of code out and you can write somewhere and you will configure that, okay, I'm coming to this method, okay, execute that particular logging method which I have written by using the aspect oriented programming and execute that and come back to the main program. So you are completely taking out the cross-cutting concerns like logging, authentication, all these things. So it will be reusable everywhere. Otherwise, for example, if I take one method, while coming into the method, I have to log. While going out of that method, I want to log. So this is the requirement for each and every method in the application. If I am writing on my own, what I can do, I have to write those 2 lines in every method. But what I do is I will take those 2 lines out and I will write it in a separate program. That is nothing but by using the aspect oriented programming. And I will configure that, okay, for each method, once you come inside, execute this program, which I have taken out of that particular, all the methods. So we'll take out the cross-cutting concerns and we'll write as a separate program. We'll execute that program for each and every aspect. See, that configuration is our responsibility and where exactly you want to do that. So that configuration you will do. So automatically it will execute the program for you. That is nothing but the aspect oriented programming. See, the best example I can give you for the aspect oriented programming is, for example, you want to send the JSON response to the client once you are coming out of the controller method. So for each method, the controller method, you have to do that. The conversion of that particular object into the JSON. So this particular thing, you can write it in a separate piece of program and you can use that program in each and every method as a aspect oriented one, and you can achieve that. You can write the logic, the conversion logic in the aspect, and whenever you are coming out of the each and every controller method, you will execute that and you will send the JSON response. So you are differentiating between these two things. So that is the best example of the aspect-oriented programming. And this is also the wonderful feature of the Spring. And the container, right? So the container, the Spring itself is having one container. Okay, so what it will do is we are achieving, right? So how the objects are created, how the Spring is creating the objects, how the inversion of control is working in the Spring. The Spring is also having the separate container, and this container will read the configuration, we have done, and it will create the objects for us. It will maintain the life cycle of the objects. So this is another feature we have. And the fifth one is we have the MVC framework support. We named this Spring framework as a application framework, but still this have the MVC framework by which you can create the web applications. So it is the complete framework, I can say. It's not only the application framework, not only the web framework. So you have the complete package with the Spring. And the transaction management. So the transaction management made easy by using the Spring framework. So previously, so whenever you are creating the applications which are transaction dependent, right? So you have to take care of the transaction, the opening the transaction, closing the transaction. And if it is failed, you have to roll back those transactions. All that code you have to write by yourself. But in the Spring, with the simple configuration and with the Spring simple annotations, so you can achieve the transaction management very easily. And the next one is JDBC exception handling. So it is as the same as transaction management. So we have to take care of the exceptions while writing the programs, while writing the JDBC programs, and we have to throw the proper exceptions. But once you come to the Spring, if you are using the Spring provided the proper exception handling. It is having the proper exception handling, and it throws the proper exceptions so that we can understand very easily what the problem is. So this is another feature of the Spring. See, here is the Spring ecosystem. So this is the as I mentioned, we have the layered architecture, and we have so many modules in the Spring, and they are independent of each other. So whenever, see, if you look at this is the test framework, the Spring test, and in the core container, we have the beans module, core module, context module, special expression language. So this is basic thing, and this requires for each and every applications. But once you come to the transactions, it is up to you. Whether AOPs, it is up to you. Messaging, it is up to you. So whenever it is required, then only you will grab that particular module into your application, and you can simply use that, so that you are not concentrating on the unneeded things. So if you don't need that, then don't take that into your application. So if you need the ORM, take that. If you need the web, take that. So as it is maintaining as modules, it is very easy for us to concentrate on what we need, irrespective of concentrating on all the other things. So this is the brief introduction of the Spring. If you look at this Spring, the Spring framework is like this. So it is having some core module, it is having some different modules, and these are the raw materials, right? So then what I need to do, I need to inject what I needed. So I need to mix up all those things, and I need to create one web application. I need to create one recipe. This is nothing but the Spring framework. And once you come to the Spring, we need to do a lot of XML configurations. For example, if you want to create the data source, you need to write these many lines of code. Even though the Spring framework is beautiful and it is very good, So we need to do the lot of configuration. So to avoid this one, we needed some other thing on top of Spring. That something is nothing but the Spring Boot. I don't want to configure this much. I simply do something and it has to create the web application. It has to run on its own. So that type of web application, that type of framework, that type of a module I need. So that is nothing but the Spring framework. Sorry, Spring Boot. So if you look at this one, I have the raw materials. On top of it, I want to create one wrapper so that I'll just simply configure little bit, not that much. So I want that application to be executed within no time. That type of wrapper is nothing but the Spring Boot. If you look at the Spring framework, we have the raw materials and we have as a different modules. So now come to the Spring Boot. The Spring Boot is nothing but it's used those raw materials, and on top of it they have written some wrapper so that with the simple things, with simple configurations, you can achieve all the things what you have achieved with the Spring framework. So what is Spring Boot now? What is Spring Boot? You might have already understood that it is not a separate framework. It is created on top of the Spring framework. It is a wrapper on top of the Spring framework. And it provides you a way for creating production level application development with zero configurations. So I'll show you what configuration you have to done for the data source. And I'll show you one example to create a simple application by using the Spring Boot so that you will understand how easy it is to create the web application within 1 or 2 minutes. Previously, you had to take care of what dependencies you needed and for example, if you have one jar, with this jar version, what are the proper jars? The dependence jars are proper or not, whether you can use those versions or not. The version management also was very difficult whenever you were using the Spring framework. But the Spring Boot has come up with the wrapper and it has come up with the Spring Boot starters, the starter dependencies. By using the Spring Boot starter dependencies, you can simply add that dependency. Automatically, it will download all the jars which are required. You don't need to worry about the what version I have to download, which jar I have to include, which jar I have to exclude. So all this stuff has been taken care by the Spring Boot. Now, what is a Spring Boot? It's not a special framework. It is developed on top of the Spring, and it will provide you a simple way to create the production level application development with the simple configuration. We can say very minimal. We can say it is zero configuration and within very short span of time. If you want to create one CRUD application, that means one application which is connecting to database and saving, deleting, reading, and editing. So if you want to create that by using the Spring framework, you need to download the Spring jars, you need to download the Hibernate jars, you need to create a web application, and you need to configure that. You need to configure the JS piece. So all this stuff you need to do, but with the Spring Boot, all are gone. With the zero configuration, you can create web application within no time. See, if you look at the Spring Boot configuration in the application.properties file, if you write these 3 lines, automatically it will connect to the database whenever the application is starting, and it will create the connection for you. So let's see one example so that you will understand better the Spring Boot. So any questions till now? Okay. So now, why do we need the Spring Boot? So it is convention over configuration. See, we are talking about the configuration so much in the Spring. So we don't need to configure those many things, those many XMLs. I want to avoid those XMLs. See, to avoid the XMLs, we got the Java configuration. Still, in the Spring, we need to do a lot of Java configuration. See, I don't want that as well. I want a simple configuration than that. So we what we have done, sorry, we have removed all the configuration steps. Very minimal configurations we have to do in the Spring Boot so that we can create the web application. So it's a convention over the configuration, so that you will concentrate only on the business logic. And the provides dependency management. This is another beautiful feature. That's what I was mentioning. So it will provide you the Spring Boot starter dependencies. Spring Boot starter dependencies. See, for each and every module, you have the Spring Boot starter dependency. See which dependency you want. For example, if you want to connect to the database, you take that Spring Boot Spring Data JPA dependency. If you want to connect, if you want the Lombok support, take that. If you want the security, take that. Simply you configure this in the Maven file. Automatically, it will do all the default configurations. If you want to customize, that is a different story. But if you want the default behavior of the application, so with simple configuration, by simply adding this, you will get all the features. You'll get all the features of that particular module. Let me show you that. And the next one is auto configuration. See, by adding those dependencies, it will automatically configure the minimum configurations. For example, if I want to connect to the database, H2 database, H2 is a in-memory database. If I want to connect to that, I no need to write a single line in the configurations, even in the application properties as well. See, all these things I will show you in the example. Don't worry, but just I'm explaining why this is needed. So whenever you added that Spring Boot starter dependency, automatically it will think that, okay, so there is a dependency. So I need to create one data source. It will create a data source for you, and you can get the connection from that data source very easily. So it will automatically do those configurations. See how this auto configuration works, we will see in the future classes. What are those Spring starter dependencies and how do you add? I'll show you one example, but in detail, we will look into those details in the future classes. That's what the fourth one is, starter dependencies. That's what I was mentioning. And the next one is actuator. So we'll talk about this later. So now let's create one simple example by using the Spring Boot so that you will see how easy it is to create one web application, even the production level web application. So we'll see we'll create one department service or something, and we'll save that particular data into the database and get the data from the database. But before that, by using Spring Boot, how do you create the application? So there are two ways we can create the Spring Boot application. The one way is using the Spring Tool Suite. This is IDE on top of the Eclipse. They have written on top of Eclipse. They have removed all the unnecessary things and they have added the Spring support to the IDE. So by using Spring Tool Suite, you can simply create the Spring Boot application. And the next one is using the Spring.io website. If you don't want to create by using Spring Tool Suite, you can simply go to the initializer, the Spring.io initializer website, and you can just configure whatever you want, which dependencies you want, and which whether the Gradle, whether the Maven build tool you want, you can simply specify it. What is the Java version you want to use it? You can specify it and you can download that particular application and you can start building your application on top of it. So these are the two ways you can create the application. So now let's go to the Spring Tool Suite and we'll create the web application, and I'll show you how easy it is to create the web application and how easy to connect to the database. Okay, so do you have any questions till now? Okay, so here I'm having some Spring Tool Suite. Okay, so I will create a Spring Boot application. I have downloaded from the Spring website. You can go to the Spring website. Simply you can go to the Chrome and you can Spring Tool Suite download, and you can download which version of your operating system is. You can simply download it from there. So if you are using Windows, you can download it. If you are using Mac, you can download it. If you are using Linux, you can download it. So I have already downloaded and I have opened this. This is very similar to the Eclipse. You can create one workspace and you can open that workspace. Now I can create this new application by right clicking on the Project Explorer or Package Explorer, and you can go to the Spring Starter project. You can click on this. Okay, now it will ask you some information. So I will give that information. For example, if I'm creating department service. Okay, so here my package name is dailycoder.department, and this is department service. So this is the group. I hope you have some understanding of the Maven, but the group in the Maven build tool, we have the group as well as the artifact. For example, you have one company. Under that company, the company name or the company site name can be the group. Under that group, how many unique applications are there? That unique application name is nothing but the artifact tree. So anyway, I will explain these things, the Maven build tool also, in one of the sessions. So now group name is, for example, Daily Coder, and my artifact is department service. Under this group, I can have multiple services. For example, if you are creating a e-commerce application, you can have one group and you can have the different artifact IDs. That is nothing but the product service and the payment service and the different services. The artifact ID will be different, but the group name is same. So I have given the group ID, artifact ID, and the version I'll keep as it is, and the package I'm creating like this, and I'm clicking on the next. See, now it will ask us to create, which dependencies you want. Now the Spring Boot version is using 2.5.2. If I want to create any web application by using Spring Boot, I need to add the Spring Web dependency. The next one, I want to connect to the database. Which database I want to connect? I want to connect to the H2 database, which is in-memory database. In the next upcoming sessions, I will explain the MySQL as well. But this is for the example. I'll show you how to connect to the database without any configuration. Spring Web and H2 database. And I want to use Spring Data JPA. Spring Data JPA for connecting to the database. See, this is H2 database will be having the driver information, and this data JPA is nothing but the ORM. ORM, like a Hibernate. I mean, this is backed by the Hibernate only. The Spring Data JPA is backed by the Hibernate. Internally, it will use the Hibernate, and it is provides a simple way to create the connecting database and saving, deleting all those stuff. We will see this module in the upcoming sessions. How you can connect easily, what exactly the all the other methods it will provide, how you can write your own queries, all those stuff I will explain. But now Spring Web H2 database and Spring Data JPA. So these are the three dependencies I needed to create my web application. So next and finish. So it will just wait until it is imported into your Spring tool suite. See, I'm not doing anything. Just within clicks, it is created one web application. I'll show you how to write the code in that. But if you go for the Spring, if you are using a Spring, if you are using a simple Spring, then you have to create one web application. You have to add the dependencies. You have to write the configurations, all the stuff you need. At least it will take 2 to 3 days for the initial configuration to make it work properly. But once you come to the Spring Boot, you can simply create a production level, the working application within 1 or 2 minutes. So it is downloading sources. So let me go to this is nothing but the anatomy of the Spring Boot applications, how it looks like and what are the folders it will have. So this is your application. I'm using the Maven. So Maven, that's why I have the POM file. I will explain what POM file contains, and it will have the main, what are the package you have given while creating the application. So this is having the main method application with the main class, which will start running from here. If you start the application, Spring Boot application, it will start the running of the application from this main method. So internally, it will pick up all those configurations. What are the configurations we have and what are the dependencies we have? It will pick up all those configurations and it will create the things for us. See, now this is a simple application. You are not going to touch this application, and this is as it is you have to use. If you want to add some stuff, you can add, but I recommend don't add anything in this. So you have the resources, you have the static, you have the templates. This static is having the folder which static is used for the static content, like a JavaScript files and the CSS files. If you want to, you can add that here. And the templates. See, if you want to use the JSPs or any other templating languages like Velocity or Thymeleaf, you can create those templates here. But in this example, I'm going to show you a simple JSON response. So in the latter classes, we will see how you can use the JSPs, how you can use the Thymeleaf templates, and how you can create those web pages. Okay, and this is application.properties. This is the place where you will configure all your database configurations and all other stuff. If you want to change the port number, you can change from here. And here you have you can write your test classes. Okay, and we'll come to the pom.xml. So this pom.xml is having the parent pom, the Spring Boot starter parent. So this is having the magic. So all the Spring Boot related dependencies will come from here, the starter parent. And this is our group ID, artifact ID, this you know already. And see that these are the dependencies we have added externally. The starter JPA, starter web, and H2 database. So these are the 3 dependencies we have added. So what this Spring Boot will do, it will look at these dependencies and it will create all the configurations for you. It will create all the configurations for you. So let me run this application. See, run as Spring Boot application. See, now it started the application. Internally, it has the Tomcat server. So automatically it will create that particular application and it will run in the Tomcat and it will provide you some information. It will provide you some information. Okay. So if you look at this one, the Tomcat started with the port 8080. See, as we have added the H2 database, automatically it is using the H2 dialect. H2 dialect. And it has created all the configurations. See, initialized JPA entity manager factory. So all the configurations it's created for you, you can simply use those classes or you can simply use those default configurations and you can write your CRUD operations. Now I'll show you how to write that CRUD operations. Now I'll create the packages department.controller and service layer. See, I'm creating 3 layers for this. One is controller layer and another one is service layer and another one is DAO layer or repository layer. Okay, so I have the layered architecture application so that we can maintain this very easily. See, now, see how this will understand. So before going there, how the Spring Boot will understand how it will do the auto configuration. So all the magic is there in this particular annotation, the Spring Boot application. So whenever the Tomcat is started, it will start the running from here. If it encounters this Spring Boot application, so it will do all the magic for you. The creating of the H2 dialect, data source, Hibernate ORM, so all the things magically created because of this annotation. So what exactly will happen, we'll check in the future classes, but this is where the magic happens. Okay, now I'll create the entity package as well. I'll create the new class, department entity. For the simplicity, I'm adding only 2 properties, right? Entity. So I'll create this entity, not the entity, it is entity, right? So now private long ID, private string name, department ID and department name. For this ID, it is the unique ID I want. This is the primary key of my department class, department table. So now I'll create the getters and setters for this. Getters and setter methods for these 2 properties. Okay, now I'll create the service or repository. First I'll create. The repository will be the interface if we are using the Spring Data JPA. So whenever we are going through that Spring Data JPA, you'll understand more. But let me show you the example simple, how simple it is. The department repository. So this repository, if we are using Spring Data JPA, this repository has to extend JPA repository so that you don't need to write any of the methods. See what entity you are going to use for this repository. Department is your entity. And what is the primary key? What primary key is a type? The type of the primary key you have give long. That's it. No need to do anything here. Now I'll create the service, department service, and this is sorry, I have forgot to add the at repository annotation. Just we are mentioning it as a repository. Hey, this is class is nothing but the repository class, and we are mentioning this. Now the Spring Boot will understand what type of class it is. Now I want to auto wire the repository in this. Okay. Now I'll create the controller. So I mentioned this as a REST controller because I want to create one REST service. Now I want to inject the service here, department service. Okay, now I'll create one method where I can save the department, Okay, so now public department save department. So what you will get from department. Okay, so return department service dot save department, and you will pass the department here. So now I'll create one method in the department service, and here repository. By using a repository, I want to save. If you look at this one, you are getting all the methods. From where these are getting? So you haven't written any of the methods inside the department repository, but you still can see these methods. These are coming from the JPA repository. You don't need to write the logic for this. This is the beauty of the Spring Data JPA. It will provide you the default implementations, default methods, the common methods. But if you want to have the extra features or extra functionality, if you want, then you have to write your logic. But for the save, for the get, all this stuff, you need to, no need to write any code. Simply it will save this. See, if I go to the document department repository, no method is there, but still I can able to save that because of the Spring Data JPA. I'm extending this, and I have added the Spring Data JPA dependency over here, and the Spring Boot will understand, okay, no problem. So I can use the Spring Data JPA and I can save this department. So now I'll go to the console, I'll stop it, and I will start again. As a Spring Boot application. Just give me a second. I'm just using the Postman, so. Okay, now I'll check this. See, now it is started with the 8080. If I go here and localhost colon 8080. See, now if you look at this white label error, the server is started properly, but you need to send the information. But before that, I created this method, but which URL I have to send to which URL? So which URL I'm mapping? So for that, I need to use @post mapping. That means I'm sending the post method. So which URL I have to give? Departments. And this is any name you can give, but I'm using the departments. If I'm sending these departments along with the data, JSON data, so that is nothing but in the request body, I'm going to send this department object as a JSON so that it will save into the database automatically. Save into the database automatically. Let me download the Postman here. Okay, I'm just using the web version. Okay, just give me a second. And meanwhile, I will just restart the server. Okay, so okay, I'm just creating the collection. Okay, not sure why this is. Not to this workspace. Just give me a second. So let me check. Just wait for 2 minutes. I'm just going to download it. I configured the new system per the session, so I forgot to add this. Okay, now I have added this Postman. I'm just going to create one request. It is the post request. That's what we have given, right? So localhost HTTP HTTP localhost colon 8080. Let me maximize it slash departments. So this is what we have given the post method. And as part of the post method, I want to send the JSON in the body. I want to send the JSON data. So I'll select the JSON here and I'll send the name, only name, because I want that ID to be generated automatically. That's what we have given as ID. So automatically it will generate. So now department is IT department. IT department. I'll send the request. So let me check what happened. Okay, so we have created that ID. We have given that as ID, but we need to tell the Spring Data JPA that, okay, so which value, whether you are going to give or automatically it has to generate. So now I created, given this as generated value. So automatically it will create one for you and it will save into the database. Let me just restart it so that it will work now. See, now I'll go to this and I'll send the request. See, now I got, see, I did not send any ID here, but I got the ID from the database. Now, if I send one more time, see ID 2. If I send again ID 3. So now I have the 3 elements in the database. But how I can look into those things? See how it is connecting to the database. Basically, how it is, see, we did not add any URL, nothing we have added. So how it is connecting to database? So that is the magic of the Spring Boot. If you have the dependency in your class path, automatically it will create the minimum configuration for you so that it has created the H2 database. It has connected to the H2 database automatically. But to open that H2 database, if I want to access that H2 database, I have to do spring.h2 h2.console enabled is equal to true, so that I can simply go ahead and look at the tables. See, in the MySQL, how you can check the tables? By using client application. So this is nothing but the client application. But to make it enable, so you cannot simply go and check it. So you have to enable it. How to look at that? See, this is database available at. See, this is created. As we have added this enabled, so this is the URL of your H2 database. So now go to this one, h2-console. See, now you can able to log in into your H2 database. Now I'll go here, and what is your database name is this one. It's not a testDB. Previously it was creating the testDB, but with the new versions, it was not creating the test. So we need to copy from that and simply connect it. Okay, so the test is there. So let me copy the complete URL. Right, this is the URL of your H2 database. See, now test connection success. See, connected. Now you have the department table and nothing you have, because you are restarted your server. All the data is gone. We can make it safe. We can make it persistent, but we can check that later. For now, I'll send 1, 2 more or 3 more requests. So there are 4 requests I have sent, and I can see how many objects are there in the H2 console. Let me check. See, 4 requests have been come to this particular H2 database and they are saved. So in this way, we can create the production level applications with the minimal configurations. See, that's how you will create the Spring Boot applications. See, now you can run your application outside of your Eclipse by using the jar command, so that we can check later. See, by using this java jar target my application, what is your application .jar, so simply it will run automatically by using the jar command itself. You don't need to deploy into the Tomcat, you don't need to start the Tomcat. So simply by going into the command prompt or console, you can just type this command and it will start for you. So that's about the today's session. But before going to end of the session, so I want you to check what exactly we will cover in our sessions. So let me go here and I'll show you what are the concepts we will cover in the sessions. So before that, are there any questions in the session? Okay, I'm assuming no. Yeah, so it's completely designed for the freshers as well as the working professionals, so that they can start from the beginning, right? So if they know the Spring framework, we'll start with the Spring Boot and what is a Spring Boot, how you will create it, how you'll connect to the database, how internally it will work. So all that stuff, what is a setter injection, what is a constructor injection, even we will cover some of the Spring concepts as well here. So how you will auto wiring will work, what is the qualifier, primary, so all this stuff we will check this in the Spring Boot. After the Spring Boot, we will check the Spring Data JPA. So as I mentioned, this is a persistent layer. So internally it will use the Hibernate. So all the topics related to the Spring Data JPA we will see, right? And what are the normal methods, and what you can write your custom methods, how you can write your custom queries as well. So how you can achieve the pagination, how you can sort the things, how you can query by some of the examples. So a lot of stuff we are going to check in the Spring Data JPA. So once that is done, we'll come to the Spring Web MVC, creating the web applications by using the Spring Boot and Spring Web. We'll look into that, and then we'll come to the Spring REST. In that, how you can create the RESTful web services by using Spring and Spring Boot, right? And then you'll come to the microservices. In the microservices, we cover all the stuff related to the microservices, the monolithic applications, load balancers, and historics, and the gateways, the cloud config server. So all this stuff we can see in the microservices. See, they'll just in the other sessions, maybe in the other institutes, they will say simple topics, but here we will see the real world example along with how you can scale it, how you can install it, how you can push into the cloud. So all this stuff you will check it. And later, this is based on the requirement. We will check the Maven, how you can integrate the Log4j in the Spring Boot, how you can use the JUnit with mocking. So how we will configure the Jenkins, how we will configure the Docker. So all this stuff we will check in this. So this is a lot of stuff we are going to check in the Spring Boot and microservices sessions. So I hope you understood what exactly we are going to cover. So any questions? That is for the today's session, and we'll see you later.